Okay, let's talk about the war in Ukraine. We're almost. Can you believe we're a year?
A
We're
year,
a
yeah,
year
yeah.
since it started. And tell me, like in this century, where everyone's privy to technology and that, has there been like? I mean, we're aware of the war, right? But people are going about their day, right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
I have this conversation, and I don't know if it's an ignorant thing to say, but I feel like I'd be so intrigued if we had the level of technology and media coverage back in the days and back in the world wars that we're talking about, whether it, because it feels like it's happening, we're aware of it, but it's so far, you know what I mean? Maybe that's an
Yeah.
Australian
I
view. Like,
mean,
what is your view on that?
yeah, it's happening, and I guess it just goes in and out of the media cycle, really,
Yeah, which is
which
terrible,
is
right?
terrible,
Yeah,
right? Like, there's so many lives lost, and I mean, I don't think we're seeing even a fraction of what's going on there.
correct.
I
Yeah.
think it's much, much worse, and yeah, I don't know. It's just like the coverage bit is weird because it just goes in and out of the news cycle, and a lot of it seems to just stem from
Well, we're in Western media, right? So,
Western media, but a lot of it seems to just stem from the fear that Putin's going to launch a nuclear missile, right? Because like
yeah.
well, I guess Western society is seeing it in like what's the next phase, right?
Or how does it affect us?
Yeah,
How
they don't
how
really care what's going on the
that's
ground as
that's that's
much.
the touchy bit.
Yeah,
I agree. Like I
they
think
don't. I swear to God, they don't.
I
Because
think yeah, if it's BAU, this you know what I mean? Like it's just such a
at least when I guess the Iraq War, right? There
yeah
was protests around the world. I remember that.
yeah
There was a lot of protests around the world about whether there should be a war.
yeah.
But this one, I haven't seen much of anyone talk about it really, and that's kind
I
of
don't know. I don't know if that's what I'm
disappointing.
trying to like zoom out and think about it. Is that because of our within our social circles within our sort of country in Australia? But I do feel for as many like there's a country that's being
Yeah,
attacked, right? Like just that's insane.
yeah,
People are dying every day, and for a whole year it's happened,
yeah.
right? Can you imagine? So, did you watch Bear Grylls recently released a documentary where he met President Zelensky?
Oh, really?
Yeah, it got released last week, but we'll talk about that as well. So Joe Biden,
Yep.
he rings up Air Force One and says, "Guys, we need to go. I need to get my shot with Zelensky."
Oh.
And
Is this the one where I think I saw a video of him tripping on the way up to the?
he's tripped on so many
He
things.
recovered pretty well, I gotta say.
It's a good recovery.
It was a good
It's just
recovery.
as good as my wedding trip as well into my first dance. But yeah, so Joe Biden goes into Ukraine, takes a photo with Zelensky between Bear Grylls and Joe Biden. Like, let's just think about what we're saying.
Yeah,
A country that's in the midst of war. So in Kiev, right?
yeah,
They have like war sirens and stuff going on. Like, just picture that visual, and then in the middle of that, which is happening, and it's winter there, so
yeah,
so the war is slowed down on both sort of sides
yeah.
because of winter. Joe Biden's there, flashing his pearly whites, taking photos. Can you imagine if that happened in World War One? Like, I can't even
Well,
fathom that.
in this
Right?
context, it's a massive no-no. I
What do you
reckon.
mean?
Meaning Putin sees this as an act of aggression. If he sees, the U.S. president across the border, it's an act. It's the same way as China doesn't like anyone saying that Taiwan exists, right?
Yeah.
It's that same sort of. They feel that they like these countries feel disrespected.
Well, let's talk about the war game element of this,
Yeah,
right? So
it's a big message.
This is basically look like Russia knows that the US is an ally, right?
Yeah,
They know, right?
yeah,
But it's one thing to know, and it's the other thing that in the middle of a war, the CEO, the president of the most powerful country in the world flies in. Like, how brazen is that?
That's brazen.
That's like the shells going on like constantly there. People are dying. Goes in and then like promoted on TV. It's not even covert or overt. It's like, I'm here and we are fully supporting of you. Like, no mincing words.
yeah.
And they've
Well, here's
benefited
sort of
more supplies, right? Like they've
problem.
committed to that.
There's a problem with that as well because, and this is where I think a lot of the US is kind of against giving money to.
Well, I don't know if it's a lot, but there's definitely back and forth on it.
There's back and
Yeah.
forth. And it's like they're not 100% agreed on whether they should even be giving weapons through this proxy war.
Yeah.
because it's a lot of money as well,
Of
billions
course.
and billions of dollars. I forgot the number, but it's a big
It's a
number
lot. It's a lot.
that they're giving to Ukraine and for help and weapons and fighter jets and all sort of stuff.
When's the American election again?
Ooh,
It's close, right? No, well, it's not. It's within earshot. It's not like.
no, it's about a year or two away.
Well, the reason I'm saying that is if like someone like Trump comes in, and the stance is completely different, and they've dumped all that money,
Yeah.
and again, as far as Russia's concerned,
I guarantee you the stance will be different if Trump comes in, because he's openly said right now that he wouldn't even allow Putin to bring up the nuclear word. Right? Putin uses that word pretty fragrantly at the moment.
yeah,
Doesn't care, doesn't give a shit.
yeah,
Trump Trump in an interview has said that I wouldn't even let Putin say that word. Next time he says it, there's going to be consequences.
yeah.
So, it's just it's a big situation.
It's pretty tense.
It's tense, and a lot of the world is very tense about it.
Yeah, because considering right now the optics of the front end is Ukraine and Russia. It's a domino, right?
Yeah.
It's a domino, and I can only imagine that's why. Well, there are the humanitarian reasons as well, obviously.
Yeah.
That it's not only the US. There are a lot of other countries that are
Oh, yeah. This
sending resources, artillery, everything.
Well, the
there.
UK got in trouble as well from the Russia, because they sent these certain air jets to them,
Yeah,
fighter jets, and Russia took that as a massive act as aggression,
yeah,
saying all these tanks and stuff apparently were okay,
yeah.
but now that they're sending fighter jets, that's a saying like, mate,
Yeah,
this
of
is war.
course.
You're at war with us. Don't act like you're not. Like you are.
Yeah.
And a lot of these countries want to go to war with Russia, but not really go to war with Russia.
Well,
in a
this
way.
is
There's a proxy war.
yeah, exactly. This is I wouldn't say easiest way, but this is the least intrusive way because you're not directly there, but you're sending resources covertly or even overtly.
Because look, at the end of the day, right, all these big Western countries, they have these big military contracts,
Yeah.
Lockheed Martin, all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And that is for just like any company, right? If you don't use that budget, it goes down.
Yeah, yeah.
So they need to use that budget for something. And they do that by fighting these proxy wars around the world. That's why America gets into so much trouble.
Yeah.
Because they keep fighting, these proxy wars. They keep their foreign sort of, stance on things, like, different wars across the Middle East even, is just, for their military
Look, the economics of war in itself is fascinating, right? Like there are in things happening in the background that we're definitely not aware of that are contributing to that the war machine there. What are your thoughts on and when you read we read our media? It's so Western lens focused, right? So it's so hard to sometimes get like a barometer there. The war between the Ukraine and Russia has been going on for a while now, and a lot of reports are that Putin effectively misestimated how much tougher Ukraine would be because they've got an advantage in terms of weaponry, infrastructure, and population and all that. And I'm thinking, dude, we're talking about war here, right? Like, it can't be that stuff like this is on a whim, emotional, not calculated, and that. But is there some element of truth to the fact that like he just thought it would be much easier? Like, did we really think that in a year this would be smooth sailing?
The Western media sort of painted this picture that Putin is a crazy man. He's lost his mind and all sort of stuff. But I actually think that Putin thinks that he thought this would be done within a month. Because he was
surely not
at the start. He was labeling this as a military operation to his population, his Russian population, right? He was telling his citizens that it's a military operation. And it's not a war. And obviously on the other side, we know it's a war. We know what's going on. All the troop build up and all sorts of stuff. I mean, I think he thought it would be over within a month, and I don't think he expected this much military backing from other countries, right?
Really though?
I actually,
really?
Yeah.
You think that
I think he thought
NATO would just let them.
I reckon he thought that the world was scared.
I mean, how arrogant can that? Like, surely, really?
Yeah, because I mean, think about it, right? You've got a what's seen as a weak president in Biden.
Yeah.
Just not that I say he's weak or whatever, but just and the world thinks he's weak. He's old. He's a bit, forgetting things. And the way they went out of, I don't think this is important. The way they went out of Afghanistan, the US, really painted a bad picture on them from the world. And I think he just saw it as an opportunity. Okay, this is probably the only time I can invade another country.
So you think the
without-
US was the only, but you can't, like, NATO extends
Yeah.
past the US. So
The US is a big member.
of course it is. Of course it is. Like, but so you think that the consideration was mainly towards the US?
Yeah, I think
Because of all those countries, you're right. US has the most.
because I think he thought because under the previous president, like under Trump, right, there was that rhetoric that if you even say the word nuclear, we're going to rain down on you, mate. Like there's going to be some serious consequences, more than sanctions. Biden only talked about sanctions. He didn't talk about anything else. He was just said, sanctions. We're just going to help them. And then what's happened is the help that's coming from the US and NATO to Ukraine has increased more than just sort of aid and I guess technological help, which is what initially what it was about, right? We'll just help you technologically. And now there's tanks, now there's fighter jets, now there's all this military, backing. I don't think he predicted that. And that's why he's angry, right?
Yeah.
And that's why he's like, whoa, you guys can't do that. You guys can't say you're not at war with me and you still are with all your equipment's being used.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Where does China fit into this? Because you heard about the apparent peace. I don't even know what the word is, but the Chinese president is trying to effectively get Russia to stop, or they've
it looks
come
bad
up
on them. It looks bad on them.
because there are alliances there, right?
There are alliances there, and I think also, well, here's a weird thing, right? Because they want to take over Taiwan, right? They've probably looked at this and gone, maybe we shouldn't do that right now.
Yeah.
Because like the way that the world reacted to, like, in terms of helping Ukraine with its military, I'm not sure China would want to really.
I mean, we are so connected, right? You got to know economic progression is like everything is connected now, right? So the wars that were held World War One, World War Two, they were different. There were different paradigms of war. The information and espionage wars were different now, and I think like this. How does this war end? Like I was reading, and there are three options. One is total victory. I don't even know what that means. A negotiated peace. So there's like a negotiation, and a kind of stalemate. So of those three options, it's been communicated that it's probably going to be a stalemate. Yeah. Because what's a total victory? A total victory is
Ukraine,
Russia. Yeah, that's a total. So if that happens,
no. If the thing is, if that happens, right, that's gonna.
God forbid, like
that is going to trigger a lot of.
It's going to be it's going to be a different world if that happens,
because,
right?
This all stems from the fact that during the Soviet Union, Russia and NATO agreed to not go near each other, right? NATO broke that promise and has gone closer to Russia.
Yeah, of course.
Which has caused a lot of this sort of
friction.
Anxiety from them and the friction. But, mate, if Russia takes over Ukraine and they're right at the border of a NATO country.
Yeah. So tell me this, if it's a stalemate, which almost seems like let's just play that scenario, a likely outcome. In my mind, things will never be the same again, even if it's a stalemate. So you tell me, all right, Russia says, I'm done. Like, let's just call it. You call it too, yeah? And they'll do it. It still won't be the same again. They'll be constant. Like, you got to, especially
do you reckon this will go for 20 years, like Iraq and
I don't know, man.
Afghanistan and all that?
This chat's just above my pay grade.
Yeah.
But like the more and more I think about it, it's messy, man. Because there's so many. It's like that board where you see like threads there, right?
Yeah.
So there are two main parties to the dance, but there's so many threads. Like, and it's like it's high stakes threads. That's the thing, right?
That's the thing. I think it's the closest to war we've been since the World War II, right?
Yeah.
Some people might argue the Cuban Missile Crisis was as close. Probably was, but there's a lot more moving parts to this.
Oh yeah.
If if a nuclear bomb goes off in Kyiv,
and then the proxy about the American presidency.
Yeah.
Like that changes, and we're still in
Yeah.
whatever this is, and then the new guy's like,
I'm not
let's
taking
go.
it. Yeah, let's go.
Like,
Yeah.
it
Trump would be like
there's
that as well.
so many variables here, which just
The thing
makes
is
this
that if
such a
that kicks off there between US and Russia, it's going to kick off between China and US, and then China and India, and China and Australia, and China and South Korea, Japan. Like all this is going to trigger a lot. So the world is watching pretty tensely on this, and it's been watching for a year. But I mean, hope for any sort of peace seems to be going by the day, man. To be honest.
All right, it's tough. It's full on. The more I dive into this rabbit hole, I want to get out, man. Like it's pretty. And the thing is, it's just like we're just going about our day, like nothing.
Yeah,
is
man.
happening.
I guess
Like
it's a
again, I mean,
plausible deniability.
I don't know if that's just an indication of us, like, but like I know a lot of people
Humans,
like us.
it's human
right?
nature.
Yeah.
I guess we're just trying to deny it until
It's at an inflection
until it
point,
goes
which is
away,
kind of
man.
what happened in COVID, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
we heard of COVID-19.
Yeah.
I was like, whatever. Until it's a pandemic. What the hell?
Yeah.
All right. I need something.